At the start of the tale, we observe a jail constructed on an uninhabited island. Today, new inmates were being brought to this facility, one of whom was Edmond. When he encountered the warden, Edmond stated, "Sir, assist me. I haven't done anything incorrect. I've been brought here on incorrect accusations." The warden quietly responded, "I understand. If you had done something, you would have been taken to a prison within the country. Only those who are targeted by a conspiracy are taken to this isolated prison." After that, the warden struck him severely and then confined him in a jail cell that had a wooden door and a tiny window. This door opened just once a year, when the warden arrived to punish them for no reason. Time continued to go by, and Edmond grew quite troubled from being confined alone in the cell. He had inscribed on the wall, requesting God to grant him justice. But as time passed, when he understood he had no power over the situation, he began to feel profoundly sad. After being in that prison for 12 years, he even lost his belief in God. He believed he would be confined there for the remainder of his life. But then one day, unexpectedly, the ground of his cell began to elevate. This unusual occurrence surprised Edmond. He sensed as if a spirit had materialized before him. After feeling frightened for a bit, Edmond noticed a man emerging from beneath the ground. The individual was Abi Faria, an inmate from the level beneath. He had been excavating a tunnel for the past 5 years. By a turn of events, the tunnel led into Edmond's room as if it were a message from God. With Abi's arrival, Edmond finally had someone to converse with, as he had been going crazy from being confined alone for so long. After that, Abi eagerly asked Edmond to his room. Edmond felt quite pleased that he wouldn't need to spend his time making marks on the wall with stones anymore. When Edmond walked into Abi's room, he was astonished by what he observed. Abi's cell was unlike the rest. It appeared to be a nice hotel. There were seats for relaxation, and numerous books were resting on the shelves. Abi assured Edmond that if he assisted him in digging the tunnel, he would instruct him during their remaining time. Edmond had nothing else to occupy his time, so he quickly accepted. Just when they were about to begin digging, they heard the noise of a guard's footsteps. Shaking with fear, Edmond hurried back to his cell and got the garbage basket ready, as the guard was about to come to his floor. In this jail, the cell door opened just 2 times, once to gather the trash and once to provide dinner. Other than that, the remainder of the day was open, which provided them ample time to excavate the tunnel without fearing being discovered. After that, Abe snipped a small bunch of his hair. He hit a rock to make a spark, ignited the hair, and then set a candle on fire. Then somehow they both went into the tunnel and kept digging ahead. There was hardly any room below, so excavating wasn't simple. Abi figured that if they continued at this speed, it would require at least 3 more years to get to the outside world. One day, while relaxing, Edmond discovered from one of Abe's books that Abi had once been a highly talented swordsman. After that, Edmond grew obstinate and declared that if Abi didn't instruct him in swordsmanship, he would cease digging the tunnel. Edmond now had just one aim in life: to seek vengeance on his foes. After hearing him, Abi accepted and prepared to instruct Edmond in the art of combat. Abi started clarifying that quickness is a fighter's top advantage. He considered instructing Edmond with the water drops falling in the room. Standing at the edge of the falling water, he moved his hand through so swiftly that it didn't even become wet. He mentioned, "The day your hands get this quick, you'll turn into a skilled warrior." After that, Abi returned to digging, and Edmond kept practicing. Several days later, Abi shattered the wooden boards from the door and crafted a fake sword. He then started instructing Edmond in sword fighting correctly. After the sword training ended, Edmond would concentrate on his studies. Now his entire day was dedicated to studying, exploring, and honing his sword skills. After several months, Edmond's sword skills got much better. Now Abby began to see that Edmond had turned into a better swordsman than he was. One evening, while chatting, Edmond discovered that Abby had previously been employed by a very rich family called Stadia. His master had amassed a great wealth, and now Napoleon had confined Abby to discover where the treasure was concealed. Upon hearing this, Edmond grew quite furious, as he had also previously backed Napoleon. They had both been confined due to treachery. Each day, their tunnel excavation was getting them nearer to liberty. One day, they noticed plant roots in the tunnel, which made Abby understand they were quite near to reaching the surface. Understanding this, both of them felt very joyful. But soon, something occurred that changed their joy into sadness. The tunnel abruptly began to tremble, and with a loud sound, numerous rocks and dirt collapsed on them, covering Abby beneath. Frightened, Edmond swiftly took away the stones and dragged Abby out. It became clear they had been excavating in the incorrect direction. They must have made an error while excavating the tunnel, as even a food container had dropped down from above. Abby was seriously hurt when a large rock struck his chest. Due to the harm to his lungs, he could pass away at any time. In his last moments, Abby faintly told Edmond that there was a book beneath a stone in his room. There was something concealed under that book as well. Edmond discovered the identical treasure map that Abby had been jailed for. He was surprised to see it. Abby made him vow to always use the treasure for good and to avoid bad deeds as much as possible. Edmond agreed. And Abby passed away soon after that. Edmond had tears in his eyes, sensing that he was isolated once more. At that moment, the guard arrived to bring food, and Edmond concealed himself behind the wall. The guard shouted, but there was no reply. When he entered to check and saw Abby's lifeless body, he freaked out and hurried to inform his superiors. Edmond swiftly closed the tunnel's opening and went back to his cell. After a while, the guard came back with a few of his colleagues and put Abby's body in a body bag. Edmond was concealed in the tunnel, waiting for them to go. Once the guards departed, Edmond softly stepped into the room. He gazed at Abby's body, and while observing it, a thought occurred to him. He swiftly exchanged Abby's body with his own. After a while, the warden came with his men to gather the body. As the jail was located on an abandoned island, they concluded it was best to toss the body into the ocean. At the same time, a guard approached Edmond's cell with a meal, but when there was no reply, even after knocking several times, he grew wary. He unlocked the door and stepped in, but instead of Edmond, he discovered Abby's body there. The guard then yelled and went to summon the warden. The warden aimed to complete the job swiftly, and that day powerful winds were gusting. The ocean waves were hitting the stones, making it difficult to hear anything. As the warden was attempting to hear the guards, Edmond unexpectedly took the warden's keys. The surprise of it made the warden tumble into the sea together with Edmond. Once he hit the water, Edmond swiftly used the keys to release himself. As he swam to the top, he glanced back at the warden. Years of rage surged within him, and he violently submerged the warden in the ocean, ending his life. After that, he continued swimming far out into the sea without glancing back. The following morning, when Edmond got up, he found himself on an island. He was unsure how he had made it or arrived there. Even he couldn't grasp how he was still living. But he wasn't liberated yet. A band of pirates was sitting close by, quietly observing him. Edmond believed he was going to be murdered, but the captain of the pirates, Luigi, offered him a chance. He mentioned he would allow Edmond to stay under one condition. Edmond would need to battle his betraying friend Jacob, whom they were planning to entomb alive regardless. If Jacob triumphed, he could return to the pirate crew, and they would eliminate Edmond. If he triumphed, he would be liberated. Before long, the battle between the two started. Jacob was quite talented in sword fighting, but Edmond's method, taught by Abe, was incredibly strong. Even with multiple attempts, Jacob couldn't lay a finger on Edmond. Once he had a chance, Edmond hit fast and brought Jacob to the ground. But instead of ending his life, Edmond turned to Luigi and said, "Look, we can both serve you. We are helpful individuals. Why end our lives for no reason? It's not simple to locate decent pirates." Noticing Edmond's talent and compassion, Luigi was happy and saved both their lives. While chatting on the ship, Edmond shared his entire tale with the captain. After listening to it, the captain released Edmond so he could achieve his goal of vengeance. Jacob clasped hands with Edmond. After Edmond had rescued his life, Jacob vowed that he would always stay faithful to him. Edmond requested Jacob to organize a boat. Edmond then softly approached his former master's home late at night, but everything had transformed. The former master didn't even identify him. He discovered that his father had passed away from sorrow following Edmond's imprisonment. Edmond was greatly stunned by this news, but the hardest hit came when he discovered that his old friend Montague had betrayed him and had wed his fiancée, Mercedes. The following day, Edmond and Jacob departed for the island where the treasure was indicated on the map. They explored every part of the island but couldn't locate the treasure. Then Edmond considered there could be something beneath the water. He jumped into an underground pool close to the location marked on the map. There he found a few ancient chests. Once he opened one of them, he noticed shining gold. Jacob leaped with happiness and loaded the boat with as much gold as they could hold. But to collect all the treasure, they required a large ship, and Edmond had no clue how to obtain one. More than joy, he was now filled with the flame of vengeance. He chose this fortune would be used for just one aim: vengeance. To begin, Edmond purchased a large, lavish house and introduced himself as the new aristocrat of France. He asked all the nearby noblemen to a lavish gathering in his splendid mansion. Before long, his regal flair and opulence brought him fame. All were discussing him. But in truth, Edmond was doing all this to attract the notice of his deceitful friend, Montague. Montague attended the party, but departed without talking to him. At the same time, Jacob told Edmond that Montague had a child named Albert. So Edmond, together with a lovely woman and a few of his thief buddies, organized a phony abduction of Albert, just so Edmond could seem like his hero. The strategy succeeded. Albert believed this nobleman had rescued his life. Thankful, Albert asked Edmond to his upcoming birthday celebration and invited him to come. Edmond acted as if he was unsure, but ultimately consented. At the gathering, Albert presented his dad Montague to Edmond. After 13 years, they faced each other. But Montague failed to identify him. Edmond's look had transformed entirely. But when Mercedes noticed him, she experienced an odd sensation. She didn't recognize him initially, but when Edmond played with her hair in a unique manner, something only he used to do, she instantly understood who he was. It was Edmond's former routine. Edmond realized that Montague was in need of cash. So he deceived him, claiming that he had discovered a massive treasure and a vessel was delivering 100 kilograms of gold the following day. He also requested Magistrate Wilford to remove all legal obstacles, so there would be no police issues. But Wilford was a dishonest magistrate who had complete authority over the local police. After listening to Edmond's words, he created a plan with Montague. They chose to take Edmond's treasure before it got to him and keep all the gold for themselves. Montague mentioned he was aware of someone who could assist them. Actually, these three individuals were the same ones who had set up Edmond years earlier and put him in jail. And now Edmond had intentionally gathered them all together. After the celebration, Mercedes crept into Edmond's carriage, weeping. She informed him that Montague had deceived her. He informed her that Edmond was executed. Edmond worried this fact could destroy his whole scheme for vengeance. That's why he asked Mercedes to go for now. Then we observed that Edmond's vessel had been looted, and it was carried out by Montague's associate. This same individual was also one of those accountable for sending Edmond to prison. Edmond was filled with the urge for vengeance. The man believed he had stolen from the ship effortlessly, but soon the guards came and caught him. He attempted to flee, but Edmond appeared. The man attempted to struggle, but Edmond wrapped a rope around his neck. Before ending his life, Edmond disclosed his real identity, so the man would understand precisely why he was dying and for what offense. Now, Edmond's upcoming target was Magistrate Wilford. Long ago, this same magistrate had set up Edmond in the case of Napoleon's letter. Interestingly, the magistrate's dad had been a backer of Napoleon, but in his desire for control, Wilford had his own father murdered and accused Edmond of the act, which resulted in his incarceration. This time, Edmond smartly got Wilford to admit everything during a chat. Wilford confessed everything, believing Edmond had no evidence. But what he was unaware of was that the police were already present in the room, hearing everything. They took Wilford into custody right away. At the same time, Montague, now broke, was getting ready to escape, but Mercedes declined to accompany him. She informed him that Albert is not his child, but Edmond's. When Montague wed Mercedes, she was already expecting. That was why she accepted his proposal. Montague yelled in frustration but couldn't alter anything. He hurried to the fort where he had concealed all the stolen loot, but when he opened the chests, they were packed with sand. In the final chest, he discovered just a tiny chess piece, which he handed to Edmond. At that exact moment, Edmond showed up. Montague now understood the reality. Furious, he struck at Edmond with a sword, but Montague was no equal for him. Edmond effortlessly took away his weapon and pressed him against the wall. Just as Edmond was about to strike the final blow, Albert intervened and stated he wouldn't allow his father to perish like this. Montague took the opportunity to quietly load bullets and gunpowder into a concealed firearm. Then Mercedes rushed over and halted Edmond. She revealed to him the truth, that Albert was truly his son. Edmond was astonished. At that moment, Montague pointed the gun at Edmond, but Jacob, moving quickly, hurled a knife with incredible speed. The bullet bypassed Edmond, but struck Mercedes in the shoulder. Montague took advantage of the diversion to flee. Edmond pursued him. Montague mounted his horse and galloped towards him. Edmond's sword dropped, and for a moment, Montague appeared to have the advantage, but ultimately Edmond succeeded in bringing Montague down and delivering a fatal blow. Montague passed away instantly. After his intense desire for revenge finally subsided, Edmond, together with his wife and son, returned to the place where he had spent 13 years of his life. There, he recalled his guide, Abe Faria. Ultimately, he purchased the island, ensuring that no one would endure the suffering he experienced.